on Garde by Alternative Armies. This is a standalone tabletop game at the dusk, not the dawn, very clever, of Magic with an E and the eve of the Elvish Civil War. This is a great little 1v1 game. Takes place on spoiler alert, takes place on a grid, not a problem. Fairly simple character sheet. There's two duelists here. We're going to see how it works. We've actually already seen how it works. Look at these great little fantasy elves. They're suitable for Napoleonic. This is, I don't know, this is part of the, what do they call that thing? Flintlock? I don't know if it's part of the Flintlock or not. I'm not real big on the background, but it's by Steve Daines and Gavin Syme. You can get a copy of this for like $20 over at Alternative Armies. It's great. Fun little game. One of the key mechanisms, if you will, is that your dude stands here in number 8, and depending on the weapon he uses, he can only target a select number of squares. Today, we are going to do a battle between an elf with a spear and a human with a great big honking two-handed sword. Bear in mind, the elf is lightly armored. He's got a little bit more skills than the human. The human dumped all his points into armor and that big sword. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. Same number of points. I'm not going to go over all the rules. Watch one of my older videos on this. I have a whole playlist. Check it out. But I will refresh your memory. Great game for 1v1. Probably not ideal for a solo game because there's a lot of hidden selection in here. You are dueling. You feel like you're in the duel because you're dueling your opponent. We're going to have to come up with some mechanisms to kind of account for that just to see how the mechanics work and see what happens when we have a mismatched pair like this. If this works out well, I have a dwarf and an elven princess waiting in the wings. We may get to that today, maybe for next week. We'll do a simple meeting engagement. I took the standard dueling arena, used colored pencils to give ourselves a little bit of interest. We've got a path through the grasslands. We've got a nice little stream running through here. Bear in mind where you see the bright yellow line here, that's a beach that you can just step right out of the stream. If you are fighting along anywhere else, or if you're trying to climb up anywhere else, then there is a brief cliff. So the bridge is straight across, and height elevation can make a difference in this game. We'll see if it comes to that. We're going to drop one of our guys on either side of the path. Now, we should probably talk about how these abilities work and what the standard turn looks like. Essentially, each of these guys has a dice pool. The elf in the blue will use red dice. The man in the yellow cloak will use the blue dice. I'm sure that won't get confusing at all. The way the game works on any given turn, you select a single die from your dice pool secretly, and then both players reveal them. Once you've revealed your die, whoever selected the lowest size die goes first. The die that you chose determines how you move on the grid. A D6 allows you to back up one space. The D8 requires you to move to the left or the right. You've declared a sidestep. I mixed up my 10s and 8s here. Whoopsie. The D10 allows you to advance 1 or 2 squares. The D12 allows you to hold still, but you can turn to the left or the right once or twice. That counts as a square of movement. And by the way, this guy in the heavy armor can only move 2 squares before he has to take a full turn, just standing there like a dope, catching his wind. The D20 is a charge. It allows you to move forward 1, 2, or 3 spaces. Then when it comes time to attack, you select your attack routine. There are 6 possible routines, some of which are barred, and we'll talk a little bit more about what those routines are shortly. This guy, for example, cannot launch a flurry of blows. This is a very long and slow weapon. Meanwhile, the elf cannot hack at you with his spear, nor can he slash. Probably going to be pretty good at thrusting. This is where the defense comes in. You choose which attack routine you're going to use. They are numbered 1 through 6. For flurry, which lets you make 2 attacks at -1 to hit, -1 damage. You can lunge at -1 to hit, but your target's armor save is downgraded. We haven't talked about that. We'll get to it. You can cut and thrust, which is just a basic attack. Nothing special there. Slash gives you a bonus to damage, but your opponent moves back 1 square if he's wounded. Hack gives you a -1 to hit, +2 to damage if you succeed. And then disarm gives you a -2 to damage. And if a wound is caused, the opponent loses his weapon. There's some special rules about that. We're not going to go into that in any great detail. So what you do is, that's 1 through 6. If I want to launch my attack, our boys are spoiling for a fight here. Mr. Two Hands selects this die, and he doesn't show his opponent. His opponent selects a die and says, this is what I predict you're going to do. And then we reveal. And if they're the same, you've successfully blocked the attack. Although, suppose our elf had rushed in. Now our elf is going to attack, and we repeat the process. The elf says, I'm going to use, he's got a spear, I think he's probably going to lunge. The Mr. Two Hands thought it was going to be number 3. Now what we're going to do, because it's a solo game, is we'll select our routine, and we're going to have a block die. I have a 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, and that just means that this die has 2 1s, a 2, 2, and a 4, and we're going to go ahead, because we're really good guessers, if it comes up 1 or 1, I mean, you could just roll a regular d6 on a 1 or a 2. It's a successful defense, just to avoid the guessing game, which is really hard to do solo. And so that's kind of how we're going to do that. But if you were sitting with a friend, you would have to try to outguess him. That's where the dueling comes in. Suppose you didn't block your opponent's attack. Then your opponent, if he withdrew, he gets to attack first, remember. But of course, he only has a 1 in 3 chance of hitting. Worse, if he launched a flurry of attack. Remember, he's -1 to hit. So instead of hitting on 5s, he's hitting on 6s, but he gets to make 2 attacks. So that might come in handy. Then, if he's successful in hitting, he rolls this same die to find out how much damage he does. And this is where going first allows you to hit, but it really hurts your ability to do any damage. You roll your attack die. This is where the charge comes into play. For every, on a 1 through 4, no effect. Didn't do any damage at all. You need to get at least a 5. And then from 5 to 10, you do 1 wound. From 11 to 15, you do 2. 16 to 20, you do 3 wounds. And then 20 or more, you do 4 wounds. But every weapon has a maximum amount of score that it can achieve on that. The spear can't roll higher than 16. The sword can't roll higher than 20. Some weapons, like a knife, you may not be able to roll more than a 12. You're still rolling whatever die you have here. That's just the maximum amount of damage you can do. And of course, that can be modified based on the routine that you chose. If you successfully hit and wound a character, so notice how our elf has a spear. So if he's facing this way, or a shield, I should say, the guy with the heavy armor, he rolls a d12 armor save. On a 5-up, the wound never happened, right? The armor blocked it. Our elf does not have armor except for the shield. Now, the fun thing about the shield is it can't block attacks from these 3 squares. If our duelist manages to get to right here and make his attack, then the shield can't work. But here, the shield does give him a d8 save. It also does reduce his maximum movement by 1 square, whereas this guy's maximum movement is 2. So that means the elf has a maximum move of, let's see, he's got, one of the skills he bought was extra move, bonus move of 2. So ultimately what that means is at the end of the day, he can move up to, his maximum move is 3. And remember, turning 1 space allows you to, it counts as 1 square. Okay? So normally you can only move 2 squares. This guy can move 4. Because he's really slippery, he's really fast, but he's got the shield, so instead he can only move 3. And because this guy has his heavy armor, the most he can move is 2. He didn't obviously buy any... he bought 1 bonus move, because otherwise... did I misspeak? Can you move 3 squares? Let's double check that, and then we'll figure out who's going where. 2 demerits to House Alternative Armies. I can't find what the standard movement is. I did find a couple of little things that are probably worth mentioning. If both players reveal the same die, it's a simple roll-off, except you add your reflexability. And that's one of the skills that we have here. See, so we have 10 actions. That's how many dice you have. Strength gives you a bonus on your wound roll. So in other words, our boy can roll an 18. It still counts as a 20. And then we have toughness, which is, I think it adds to... I don't know what toughness is. Let me look that up real quick. Wounds is how many wounds you can take before you fall unconscious. If you fall negative, you're dead. Hello, AD&D. Reflexes is a bonus when you select the same die. Of course, 4 means how many attack routines you get to select. So out of that 6, you don't know them all automatically. Our boy only knows 4, which, why would you buy the extra 2 when you can't even do flurry? And then the move bonus and the maximum move. But again, I don't know what the standard move is, let alone what the move bonus is. So he's got a move bonus of 1. What do we add that to? It's a little bit awkward here. And there she goes. It's right here in the armor table. So if you're wearing plate mail, you can only move 2. We actually can move 3 because we bought the extra point. Again, our boy that's wearing no armor but he does have a shield. He can move 5. Holy cats, he's going to be running around like a lunatic. He's got a total move of 5 plus his bonus move of 2. He can move 7 squares. That's crazy. All right. He's literally going to be running rings around Mr. Two-Hand. That stream is probably going to come in handy. So we're ready to find out where these guys start. We'll just do a simple, let's do D20 so we're less likely to tie. We always seem to tie on these initiative. We get a 12 and a 5. That means the elf gets to select where he wants to start. And he says, you know what? I want to try to rush over. We're going to start here. And he wants to try to rush over the stream before Mr. Two Hands can make it to here. I think it's probably the best bet for him. So that's how we start the game. And then we say, what are we going to select for our dice? Well, obviously, the Mr. Elf here is going to want to turn, so he picks a D12, and once we get a little closer, this will slow down a little bit. Our big boy, he wants to try to get over here as fast as possible. He's going to sidestep. And so with that, we sidestep. Oh, actually, maybe Elf should sidestep too, right? And then Elf sidesteps. And then that's 1 square of movement for both of them. Remember, once you move that maximum number of squares, you're done. Which means on turn number 2, our big guy here is going to select an advance. And we know that's likely coming, so we'll select a charge out of the elf. The advance goes first, and he moves 1 square, and now he can't move again. The elf says, I can go 1, 2, 3 squares, and we are locked in combat. With this situation, both guys are going to get to attack. And not only that, but Mr. Two Hands gets the first attack because remember, he has the D10. So we will decide for the attacker, what is our attack routine going to be? And we are going to try to end this thing quick. We are going to pick the big mamma jamma. We are going all out on a slash. That is +1 to damage, and we can move our boy back 1 square if we wound him. Then, does Mr. Elf see that coming? And on a result of a 2, he does not. So we roll to see if we hit. And here's where things get interesting. Because Mr. Two Hands failed, this die goes back off the board. He can no longer use that die, and that's where having a lot of these dice comes in handy. He still has the option of moving forward later, but until then, the elf gets his opportunity to swing away. Again, the elf has to decide what he's going to do, and he is going to roll. He's going to pick let's do flurry. Let's do 2 attacks at -1 to hit. They're both -1 to damage, but we'll take the 2 shots, right? Looking for 5s, and we get a 14 and a 2, which means the D20 is lost for the elf. However, he does still have the single hit, so we roll for damage. That's going to be a D20 with a 14. We add his strength of 1. That becomes a 15. And with the flurry, that means we're at -1, so it falls back down to 14. We do 2 wounds with the 14. That's why that is so powerful. Remember that our Mr. Two Hands has 2 saves. We're looking for a 5 or better. A 3 is a failure, and a 9 is a success. That means he takes 1 wound. That takes him down to 1 wound. And not only that, but Mr. Two Hands cannot move on this next turn because he is winded. Our elf has moved 1, 2, 3, 4, and he has the option to do something very interesting. Mr. Two Hands is exhausted. He has to use the D6. He will get to move first, but he can't withdraw in this case. Our elf decides he's going to use a D8. That allows him to sidestep to the right, which puts him out of the big sword's attack routine. The big sword attacks these 3 squares. The spear attacks these 3 squares. Bing, bang, boom. That means that even though he can attack with a D6, Mr. Two Hands has no chance to attack this turn. So we repeat the attack process. Mr. Elf says, I'm going to go ahead this time, and I'm going to lunge to try to find a chink in your armor. On a result of a 1, Mr. Two Hands has succeeded. All right. If that ends the turn, by the way, Mr. Two Hands now has the option of doing whatever he wants, And in this case, I'm not sure what's the best bet. I think he says, you know what? I'm going to try to force you. We're both obviously, well, wait a minute, before we move him. We're both obviously going to be using a D8. We both want to sidestep so that we can decide which way we want to go. And with a bonus of 1 on the reflexes here, and a bonus of 2 here. Oh, no, I'm sorry, bonus of 4. Mr. Elf scores an 8 to a 7. That means Mr. Elf gets to decide what to do first. And he's going to go ahead and sidestep once this way to stay out of the way. And rather than, I think we'll move him here. So we're going to stay out of the way of this attack. See, we're dancing, we're moving, we're dueling. No dice are moved because no blows are exchanged. On the next turn, our elf says, you know, I'm actually kind of good with this. I'm comfortable. I want to advance forward. Whereas he says, I guess I better turn because I know he's coming. Different color die. We will advance forward 1. We will turn 1. And that's all the movement that he can do. Again, no attacks are levied because this attack goes here. He's swinging like, wait, did I get that right? Yeah. These 3 squares. The spear is attacking these 3. That's the end of the turn. Mr. Spear says, well, I guess I need to turn. And Mr. Two Hands says, oh, you know what? I can only advance 1. But that's still going to require I use, wait a minute. He says, oh, and he hasn't lost his die yet. He says, I'm going to select this one. And since he needs to turn, if he wants to attack, we're going to do that. Mr. Two Hands steps up. He turns. And because they're both attacking, see, it's these 3 and these 3. Bing, bang, boom for the double-handed sword. We have Mr. Two Hands gets the first attack this time. And he opts for, let's just do a standard cut and thrust. 1 in 3 chance it's blocked. It's not. So we need a 5 or better. We get the hit. No changes, no dealios. We roll and we miss. And because we missed, that means the D10 goes bye-bye. We're going to take another lunge, -1 to hit for the downgrade, and a successful block. So Mr. Two Hands is really predicting what this elf is going to do. That's the end of the turn. Now, because it's blocked, we don't lose any dice. And remember, Mr. Two Hands has only moved 1 square. So he has to decide what he's going to do. And he says, you know, I really don't dare do much of anything. I'm just going to go ahead and stand still. I know that might cost me. But given the fact that the elf is attacking, you know, what does the elf want to do here? See, the elf attacks here. So if he sidesteps, and of course he doesn't know what this guy's going to do, so he says, maybe I'm better off. I'm going to go ahead and maybe he should just back off. Let him come. Yeah, well, yeah, he's going to back off. He says, you know what? I don't need any of this. I don't need any of this hassle. So because we have a bit of a back off here, right? So he backs off, and then that's going to end the turn. Oh, and how many? You know what? Come to think of it, he's moved 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and he's got a total movement of 7. So we should have. You know, I take it back. He should have, when he advanced up to here, he should have held still on that turn, which would have put Mr. Two Hands, and it's not, you don't get to take a full turn off if you haven't used all your points. So he can actually move up to here on that turn with a charge score. That's what we should have done. That would have been the smarter play. In fact, we're going to do that just to see what happens. Because our spear doesn't get to the attack now, and Mr. Two Hands gets to do now he can't hack. No, he can't do flurry. He can hack. -1 to hit, +2 to damage. We're going to do that. Big swing and a miss. Oh, except that he will have to settle down next turn. So he's trying to end it all here. There is no block. The shield does come into play, mind you. So that is interesting. We score a 7, which is a successful hit. Then we roll for damage. And we get a, what did we say? 7 becomes a 6. Still a successful hit. The 19 + 2 plus the strength of 2 is 23. That does 4 points of damage to the elf. The elf is going to have to make a lot of saves here with his shield. He has a D8 save. We are looking for 5s or better. We fail on the first one. That's wound number 1. And the elf has 2 wounds. So then we check for the second one, which is defended. The third one fails, and that puts the elf to 0. And that is the end of the game. So there's how, on Garde, the duel game works. It's just a fun little... Now, bear in mind, we're just looking at the tactical version of the game. The real game comes into play very much in the style of Blood Bowl. If you sit down to play a single game of Blood Bowl, you're going to make different choices than if you are part of a league and you have a lot of games coming up. There's a very important stat in this called honor, and how you fight duels, whether you're fighting to the first blood. I don't remember. If we fought the first blood, I think the elf would have won this one. But because we're meeting that dirty knife here out in the woods somewhere, we fought to the death. At 0, you're knocked unconscious, and like all the best campaign games, being knocked unconscious forces you to spend some time recovering. However, it doesn't really end the campaign for you. If we rolled one more time, oh, you know what? We have one more wound, don't we? Yeah, so he failed that save as well. That means that at -1, this elf is dead, dead, dead. Good job, little buddy. The point being, you can set up a little dueling school with like 3 guys that challenge another dueling school. And you could get 4 or 5 friends together and play out. You saw how fast this was. I spent most of this video explaining how the game is played. Once you know how the game is played, you can play these in like 10, 15 minutes. You can run like a whole campaign in no time flat. Fun little game. I recommend it as a nice little bite-sized, break from the ordinary. Great thing to kind of throw down on a table, say at a convention, if you got an extra 45 minutes to kill because your game ended early, which mine usually do. I wish I could say it's because I always trash my opponent in the first turn. However, we all know the opposite is probably the case. And then the one last thought I have is that there's a whole lot of room. There's a whole lot of room for customization, and there's a whole lot of room for exploring how these different rules interact. You can see how Mr. Two Hands was very slow, very cautious, and our elf was kind of running around like a maniac, and he got caught. If I was playing this 1v1, I would never have let him get into that position. As soon as I realized that I was going to be exhausted, I would have moved to a position and just waited for Mr. Two Hands to come to me, recover my breath, and then I can launch in and try to get into position where I launch my attack from anywhere I want. Again, if the rules for the cliff here, if you're attacking somebody and you're above them, you actually get a bonus on your damage die. It's +2 to damage when you're above. If you're in the stream, there's a fun little mechanic where you have to roll your die, and on a 1, 2, 3, or your opponent picks some squares, 1, 2, 3, 4, any of the 8 squares that surround you, and you roll your movement die, in this case a D12, and if you get a 1, 2, 3, or 4, you have to land on the square that he nominated. So he doesn't get to move where you go, but he does get to say, let's suppose, let's set up a situation here. Okay, I'm right here, and we're dueling right here, and he has to make a reflex check. And I say, well, here's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we roll the D12. Now I don't know what the results are going to be, but I have weighted things that if he does stumble, he's going to stumble into one of these squares, right? So I roll, and oh, look, I got a 2. That means he stumbles to here. He's still in the water. So kind of a fun little mechanic in there. And, this is also good if you're running a YouTube channel and you just don't have like a whole lot of time to set up a whole intricate, learn a new rule set, set up an intricate terrain board. Just throw some guys on the table. Like I said, little bite-sized game. A lot of fun. Give it a look. Alternative Armies. Until next time, I'm praying for you.